Hey there, it's Lee. Now, I know you didn't know that this was going to be a cooking channel too, but I have, I didn't know either, but I have seen so many posts lately. I mean, this is the time of year in Florida where people's brassicas are growing, your cabbage, your collards, your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Everything is booming right now. And so the lower leaves, you can take some of those off. I call that priming because, when I was young, I worked in some tobacco fields in North Carolina. That's what they called that. Before the lower leaves go bad and bugs get them, you take them off, and that's called priming, taking the lower leaves off. So I call it priming my brassicas, priming the broccoli, priming the collard, whatever. So anyway, this is the time of year where it's not time for the full harvest yet, but you don't want to let these leaves go to waste. So go out there, prime your brassicas, prime your collards and your broccoli and all that. And I'll show you real quick how to cook them because I've seen a lot of posts lately where people, harvesting collards and broccoli and all that, and they don't know how to cook them. We have a lot of new residents from up north. They don't know about collard greens and ham hocks. So I'm going to show you real quick. Stand by. I got my collard greens. That is a tray of collard greens, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and broccoli. Let's see, collard greens, broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. That's what it is. So I'm going to get a pot started and I'll be right back. So we got some onions, some garlic, and some bacon. That's it for now. So we're going to start sweating these onions. Nothing fancy about sweating. I just have about a tablespoon of butter in there and put the onion in there. I got it on number 5. It's just enough heat we want to get the onions really good and soft and maybe some brown tips on them. Some people say I do the bacon first, and honestly, I've never paid that much attention. Sometimes I'll do the bacon first. Sometimes I do the onions first. I just do the onions in first this time. I don't know that it makes all that much difference. The important thing to note is that the onions release a lot of water, and you want most of that water to be gone before you try to brown your bacon, because if you put bacon in the pan with a bunch of onions and water, it will not brown. And you do want the bacon to brown just a little bit. It adds more flavor to the stock. And we're going to put the bacon in there. Now this is Wright's thick cut bacon, 2 slices. I guess it's probably, I don't know, quarter cup of bacon, half a cup, between a quarter and a half a cup of bacon. But that's okay because we're doing a big old pot here. And, if you're fat conscious, dietary fat conscious, as we are in this house, it's okay to cook with some fat. But what we do is sometimes we let it stand after it's cooked, and then all that fat will float to the surface, most of it anyway, and you can skim it off. So turn that down a little bit. So I'm not afraid to cook with a little bit of fat, because I don't know if you've ever tried collard greens with no fat, but it's not very delicious. It just tastes like boiled leaves. Okay, while we're doing that, we're going to get out some spices, because we want to cook these spices in the hot oil. I had to turn the fan on, pardon the noise. Now here's where a lot of people are going to part ways with me. A lot of people, southern people, they put nothing but salt and pepper in this pot. Many more will add a touch of garlic salt or garlic powder, but I take it a little bit further. First, it's important to know that you're going to need a lot of salt. Unless you're on a salt-restricted diet, then I'd suggest you hold back on that. But if you got this far, I feel like you're probably more concerned with deliciousness than healthiness. Anyway, I have a great product that I learned from my Spanish friends called adobo. It's kind of an all-purpose Spanish seasoning. I'll put probably a tablespoon of that in there. Salt. Probably a quarter cup of salt. garlic salt, black pepper, tablespoon. Well, that was probably 2 teaspoons. You're going to want to keep stirring this because you know those spices will burn, believe it or not. About this time, I'll throw in my garlic. Although I don't want it to burn, I do want it to get nice and toasted. Now, like I said, some people will part with me here. I put some paprika in there. Nobody's even going to know if you don't tell them. I might do some turmeric just because I want to be bougie. Now, we need a little bit of acid to get those bits up off the bottom of the pan. So I'm not just going to use water. I'm going to actually hit it with some apple juice. You could use white wine vinegar. Trust me, no one's going to go, wow, these collards taste like apple juice. A lot of people put a little bit of sugar in them. That's all that apple juice is going to do. So this is the base. This is the base of your collard greens. You have plenty of flavor, some smoke flavor from the bacon. You got some fat, maybe more fat than you may want. If you wanted to, you could start off with the bacon, brown it a little bit, and then you could, so it can render some fat, and then you could get rid of that fat. That'd probably be a good way to do that. I didn't do that this time, but I have done it in the past. I'm gonna add a half gallon of water. Now we're gonna go work on the collards, the greens. All right, so here's where we're gonna trim. Here's where we're gonna trim the greens. Now, a lot of people don't like any stems. I don't mind them. If you don't want any stems, that's all you have to do. And then you'll end up with just greens. I don't mind the stems so much. My wife really doesn't like them. So if I'm cooking for the family, I take the stems out. But for me personally, I think kind of anything smaller than a pencil is fine to leave in. Because I'll tell you what, if you look up any recipe for collard greens, what you're going to see is they say cook them for 20 minutes. That's a bunch of bull. As my 3-year-old daughter told me once, Daddy, that's a bunch of bull. Collards cooked for 20 minutes would be gross. I cook mine for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Sometimes I'll get them set and then just let them go on low all day because I like them nice and soft. If you're going to can them, you probably would want to go on a shorter, go with a shorter time. So a lot of I rinse these outside in a big bucket. So they're all topsy-turvy at the moment. Once you get your stems out, you just take them and kind of roll them up like that. Where's my knife? Take them and roll them up like this. Cut them however big you like. As you cook them, they're going to get really soft and kind of fall apart. So I'm not a real stickler about how small they're cut. And then our water is almost to a boil over here. Almost boiling. So I'm just going to take them and start putting them in the pot. Because now this mess of greens here looks like it's way too much to fit in that pot. And it kind of would be, but the hot water does them just like spinach. They cook down really quick. Man, it doesn't matter how you do this. I know people that twist them. My mom used to just twist them and rip them. She didn't even use a knife. She would just twist them and rip them into shreds. And you just keep going until they're all processed. Yeah, that stem's way too big. That would be chewy. You'd have to cook that for hours in order for that to be good. So we're going to get rid of most of that. And all these pieces here, they go right in the compost pile. Chickens don't usually want them, so I just put them right in the compost pile. We try not to waste anything here. See, now these are all kind of like I said, smaller than a pencil. So me personally, I would go ahead and cook these. But again, it's personal preference. If you're going to cook them short, you probably want to take them out. If you're going to cook them for a couple hours, fine to leave them in. See, now that's really boiling now. They're getting soft and going down. Yeah, that's really boiling now, so we're going to add some more water. That's about a third full. That pot's about a third full, and I think that's going to be about right. I see that pot looked so full of greens, but put them in a little bit of hot water for a couple minutes, and they just scrunch right down. I've made this mistake. Sometimes you're tempted to add some water because it's so full of greens. You think, well, I need more water, but you don't. Those greens will go down. Because what'll happen if you fill the pot up with water, it's bland. Then you end up with a bunch of bland greens. That's perfect. Taste it. You can stick your finger in there if you want. It's your food. Boiling's going to kill the germs anyway. Yep, that is perfect. You can taste all those seasonings and spices. You can taste the smoke from the bacon. It's perfectly salty. That's going to be some delicious greens. So I might bring it back to a boil, but not this time. They've been cooking for a few minutes already. So I'm just going to turn it down to 3. I'm going to put the lid on. I'll keep an eye on it because I don't want it to boil over. But on 3, it shouldn't boil over.
2 hours later.
Nice and soft. So there you go. There's my take on Southern style greens, whether it be collard greens, broccoli greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, mixture of all of them. That's my take on it. Change it up however you like. Add something, take something away, what have you. It's your food. I will say it's probably much more simple and quick than it maybe looked watching me. I had a timer going, and it was a little over 12 minutes. 12 minutes start to finish from the time I started chopping the onion until I went and grabbed the camera and turned it on and started this segment of the video was 12 minutes. So it's super simple, and I let it cook for a couple hours. And you got a delicious meal, and there's definitely going to be leftovers from that unless you're feeding 5 or 6 people. And they're even better the next day. So I hope someone finds this helpful. Have a good one. Happy holidays.